I wanted to make a quick video for you to kind of walk you through some elements of the unit and to kind of get us set up. Since we don't have in-person sessions, I thought a video might be helpful. And I'm also going to post these slides for you so you can go back to them. So a little bit, I'm going to talk a little bit about why we breathe and do all that, why literature, some poetic elements, and talk a little bit about the theme of the course, which is the idea of internalized oppression. So you want to settle your body. You know, before you sit down to do work at all for this class or other classes, you want to take a breath. You want to make sure you're enjoying the space you're in as best as you can. So get the coffee that you like, turn your phone off, move it away from you if you have to, so that you can really get settled and focus and feel good. Why do we breathe and why do I bring that up? Basically, the neuroscience shows that the regions of the brain that allow you to learn, memorize, recall information really get impacted negatively by stress and shallow breathing, things like that. And so deep breathing and calming can get us into a better state for learning. So I want you to think about that one thing that could be influencing you right now is how you already feel about reading and writing. If you've had negative experiences in English classes right now, or positive, you may be bringing that forward. So we want to try to address that, let it go, focus on just the here and now. It's have a beginner's mind. Don't worry about what ifs, and best you can, stay open. So as far as reviewing Canvas, some of you have been on Canvas a lot, some not at all or very little. So let me know if there's anything that still feels hard, about Canvas. Like, and let me help you figure it out. Do you, is the grading system I'm using okay? Are you having issues with it? Look over the assignments, make sure you understand. We can talk about, the fact I don't do group grades but I do sometimes want you to connect with each other. So I really push that, and I think we learn better in community. So a lot of you have dealt with procrastination, and I just wanted to bring this up, excuse me, very briefly. But procrastination is actually stress relief. So what happens before that creates procrastination is stressful situations. It could be anything from, just anxiety or problems at home or work or whatever. And we can never really get rid of our stress. We're always going to have it. But there is a way that we can do something to interrupt that procrastination. It's a simple thing, but when you feel yourself, procrastinating, like you're like, oh, I've got all this crap I got to do. I might as well just, look at cat videos or scroll and, chat with my friend or whatever. Stop yourself, count backwards, count to 5 backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and take an action towards your work in this class, but only do it for 5 minutes. And this is a key because if you do it and you make it easy, the research shows you're more apt to want to do it again, and you can do it again and do longer. And you'll eventually, over time, 80% of people who can do this, count to 5 backwards, take a breath, and actually do 5 minutes of work, will finish the task. Okay? And note how it feels when you finish the task and how it goes. Change the script a bit. All right? Okay, so why literature? We read about a lot of things and a lot of experiences. One, so that we understand other human beings. It's called the humanities for a reason. It will also help you in school to help you think more critically and maybe more creatively than you're used to. It could also help you personally by giving you, for me, like once I read stories and I realized, oh yeah, my life's difficult, but there are other people who have had equally difficult lives, right? I love this quote by James Baldwin. You think your pain and your heartbreak are unprecedented in the history of the world, but then you read. it was books that taught me that the things that tormented me most were the very things that connected me with all the people who were alive or who had ever been alive. So you want to think about that. It brings us closer to people we'll never meet, right? I'd rather read a book about a prostitute than be one, right? So it's important to be able to understand human beings, and I think literature gives us that vehicle. So in the course shell, I have this video by Dr. Maya Angelou, and she asks questions about words. I'm not going to play it right now, but I'd like for you to listen to it and watch it. And then I'd like you to take notes on it. How did it impact you? I want you to keep that for yourself. And we can talk about it if you like. But how do words impact you? I want you to think critically about that. And it's going to go through here. Don't want the video to be too long. And where do we interact with words? Maybe a teacher has said words to you that were powerful in both a negative or positive way. Maybe lyrics, we're going to talk about lyrics in this class. Music lyrics are powerful words. Things a coach or parent or sibling has said to you, a boss, a colleague, a friend, a stranger. And so when these words are said, how you respond to them or react to them can have a lot of power, right? Power over us. And sometimes, especially when we're young. So we want to think about that and consider the words that we're consuming and the words that we let in. So I do want you to do this quick exercise at home. So you can push pause if you want. Get a piece of paper, and I'd like you to go through and write for 10 minutes nonstop. And you don't worry about grammar or anything like that. Write about a time when something that someone said to you impacted you. What were the words? How did it feel? Where were you? How old were you? We want to get into descriptions here because this is going to help us with the next steps in this class. But get really descriptive about where you were, when it was, what were you wearing, what did the person look like, what happened. Don't edit yourself. Don't try to rewrite it to make it pretty or anything. Just write for 10 minutes. I'm going to post a little quick discussion post for you to respond to how that went. And then we can talk about that a little bit. Okay. All right. So yeah, we're going to post this in a little bit. Share what you noticed. It'll be below this video. All right. And so if you pause and you're back on with us now, this is an excerpt, a small 2 stanzas of a longer poem about Muhammad Ali. And so I'd like you to practice this, like we're leaning into poetry a little bit here, and to look at the imagery and see what you can figure out. Because it's my view that most of us have poetry in us and we understand it more than we think we do. So the poem starts, bottom line, Olympic gold can't buy a black man a Louisville hamburger in 1960. Wasn't even real gold. I watched the river drag the ribbon down, red, white, and blue. So as you read that, what comes up? And again, you can put it in the discussion post below. What things did you notice? What stood out to you? Okay. Again, you can hit pause if you want to make notes on that and really think about it. And we'll continue that conversation. Next are some poetic elements. So I don't expect you to be experts on these, and you're not going to be quizzed or tested on them. However, I am going to ask you to learn them enough to identify them in lyrics that you choose and in a poem or two. So I just want to go over them very quickly. I try in the lecture, I give you examples of all of these, and I try to put a few little examples in here. So some of them are sensory language, the 5 senses. So if you see color or size or shape or scent, all of those are like, or texture or anything like that. All of those are appealing to the senses and make poems come alive to us so that we experience them deeply. Then there's rhyme, and the end and internal are basically the location. So if the word that's rhyming is at the end of the line with another word at the end of the line, like a formal poem, then that would be end rhyme. Internal is a word is not at the end and it rhymes with another word. So that would be internal rhyme. Internal rhyme gives us syncopation. It gives us a beat. So like in rap, of course, you know, and hip hop, there's a lot of internal rhyme. Exact rhyme means it's completely exact, like by the sound, and it fully rhymes, like men 10. That's an exact rhyme. Slant rhyme means that a word is very close, but maybe the vowel sound or maybe the consonant sounds don't quite match, but they're close. That would be slant rhyme, like noon, queen. The N sounds are very close, but the oo and the E is different. Metaphor and simile, her laughter is my life's bread. That's a line from Pablo Neruda. If you equate two items that are different from each other in their essence, but they have some unique quality that is the same, that makes a powerful metaphor. Laughter and bread are very different, but when we say her laughter is my life's bread, that means like it's the daily. It's what nourishes me. It keeps me going, right? And it also says something about the writer that he uses bread, right? Something simple, okay? And says something about who he is, just regionally and culturally. Also, simile is the same thing, but it's less direct. So you have one item and it's being compared to another item, but we use is or as in the comparison, so it's less direct. This one says she dealt with moral problems as a cleaver deals with meat, meaning this person makes a quick, fast, harsh decision. If you've ever seen a meat cleaver, right, that chops up meat, this person makes a quick, fast, harsh decision about moral issues, right? Okay, and then alliteration, assonance, these are sounds of words that are the same. Alliteration is the beginning sounds of words. So 14 and fatherless, falling faster than fear, all the F sounds would be alliteration. Assonance is the vowel sounds. And so was the goose cooing? The ooh, ooh sound repeating would be assonance. The words do not have to be right next to each other, okay, as a reminder. And, you know, they can be throughout a poem, though, or lyrics. Intertextuality is the text within the text. So we see this a lot in lyrics, but it's also in poems. Sampling, references to famous events, people, places. You know, we see it in lyrics. Like they always mention like what vodka they're drinking or you know, the name brand of something they're wearing or whatever. But it could also be, you know, biblical text, or it could be a movie, or, you know, anything like that. And then séjour, and why people do that is it narrows your audience to those who are in the know, okay? And then séjour just is a fancy word that just means to pause or to create space, and it creates tension in a line. So if you have a big space in a poem and there's like a break, that is a pause where tension it builds. You notice this in music. If there's a pause in a line, it builds up tension, and then they go back to the music and it releases in drumming or in beats or in just the music itself. So all very good. Types of poems. I want to give you examples with songs so you understand the types of poems that are out there. So if a poem is a dramatic lyric or a dramatic poem, that means that there is characters, a setting, and a plot. Examples would be Biggie Smalls' I Got a Story to Tell, or Ice Cube's It Was a Good Day, the Beatles, Eleanor Rigby. Those would all be dramatic. Narrative would be more like they hint at a character or a situation, but they don't get into like the place and the full thing. So Amy Winehouse's You Know I'm No Good, that would be a good one. Like if there's an idea like love lost or found or something kind of simple. Lyrical is just a feeling in the moment. Talib Kweli's like Get By is a great one. There's others, obviously, endless examples. Formed poems they're like set number of lines, like sonnets, haikus. I'll show you a couple in a second. And then free verse, there's no restriction in line length, rhyme, or structure. A couple of examples, this is like a Shakespearean sonnet. Sting used that first line in one of his songs. It became very famous. But like 14 lines, you have the sun, done, red, head, white, delight, cheeks, reeks. Very formal, right? Very certain amount of beats per line. Haiku, very same. These are often given in high school because like they're easy to grade because they're short. Losing its name, a river enters the sea. Kind of sweet. Obviously nature kind of poems. So those are types, formed poems. All right, last couple things. Sensory imagery. I wanted to give you an example about this. If you were to write in a sentence, I was afraid, that uses 0 sensory imagery. It doesn't show us fear. Strong poetry uses language that helps us experience the feeling. So saying you're afraid or happy or sad really is meaningless as far as making the audience feel that way or the reader. But if you said, my hands trembled like an addict's, but I was sober, ooh, we get the sense of that. Like we can feel and see the shaking. Or my mouth suddenly went dry. I could not swallow or speak. So we understand the nervousness, right? Before my turn to speak, I could feel beads of sweat dripping down my back, right? These all show us that. And so that's what we want to look for in poems, is like that sensory imagery. Finally, end and internal rhyme, some examples. I know I already went over this a little bit, but some examples from the lecture. This is from Nipsey Hussle. Listening to music at the Mayan ruins. And so you'll see end rhyme with ruins and cruising. It's slant though too. But you also see internal rhyme, devotion, ocean, right? So this can kind of help you. There's also music, bluest. It's very close. So writing this stuff this well is not easy. And you'll see some of this as you go. So hopefully you could hear that as you listen to the lyrics or read the poems. So in the lecture, there is a poem called Bullet Points by Jericho Brown. And so what I'd like you to do in the discussion that follows this video is, can you find the poetic elements in his poem? Which ones are you finding? And I'm going to ask you to just post like 1 or 2, but what did you find? What did you like, right? Do you see any metaphors or similes, any rhymes? If so, what kind? Or any other poetic elements that shows up? Okay. The next piece I'm going to we're looking at for this section is the theme for the course, which is internalized oppression. It's a tricky theme. We know a lot about regular oppression that people go through, but internalized, it means you've taken in the oppression from the views of your oppressor and you've internalized them. You start to believe them as your own. So some consequences of this, there's sort of a conceptual incarceration. You adopt a worldview or lifestyle of your oppressor. You start thinking, whiteness is better. Let's say if you're talking about racial, right? You polarize yourself into good and bad. It becomes very difficult to, whether it's based on gender or race or sexuality, or any major area of your identity, it becomes difficult, right, to then live with your mind free. Definitely there's internalized sexism. That would be gender-based. So a woman believing herself to be inferior and undeserving of equal rights. There are women in Iran right now who think the death of the woman who didn't wear hijab isn't a problem. She deserved it or whatever, right? So women who treat other women as if their worth is based on like adhering to a male perspective or a male attractiveness or a male sense of code would be a person who has internalized sexism. One quick example, this is kind of an oldie but a goodie, in the sense of the dramatic effect. This is a newscaster, and many years ago she was newscasting, she was popular, things were going well locally for her, and this is the same person, and on the left this is her. And later she became very famous, and this is a picture of her on the right. And she finally, when she hit her 40s, opened up to tell her story of this makeover and how she did it out of pressure to look less Asian. So something to consider of the effects of internalized racism in the media. Other people who kind of seem to be representing it, famous people who've given public statements, either legally or socially, regarding anti-blackness, and they have definitely internalized the oppression that they've experienced. And yeah. Oftentimes we shift to humor to cope or avoid. We downplay what's happening, we play it cool, and that's a survival mechanism. If we don't act like we're impacted, we can keep ourselves safe in some way. We can laugh at the joke, right, when really it's offensive. So we need deeper work. We need to be able for people to reframe their own identity and expand their self-knowledge and worth, and to be able to practice love of self, love of others. Some people and movies and things, this movie's not that new, but it's been out for a while, but that I felt like really internalized oppression, challenged the internalized oppression in the media. Films like Queen and Slim or Black Panther for sure. Politicians like Ilhan Omar and Cortez, AOC. I think these are great examples of folks who have kind of challenged this. Nipsey Hussle is one of my favorite examples. People who refuse to be internally oppressed, they don't leave their community, they go back to it, so those are examples. So your next steps are, you want to review the course shell if you haven't already, look over the whole course, make a time management schedule for yourself. When are you going to put in that 10 hours a week for this class? Complete the discussion post on 2 of the poems that are set up. And, it's okay if you don't get it, just do your best. Okay, like the second poem is hard, but it's an homage to the first, and I think it should work out. Choose one song. Okay, you got to find a song that includes a strong demonstration of poetic elements that we've reviewed, and on a topic that means something to you. So find a song you like that has poetic elements. So we can't do like, electronic music right now or something. Like, it has to have words. And then mark up the poetic elements, and I'll show you why in one of the next videos as to how you're going to use it. But that's your sort of next steps for this week. If you have additional questions, please let me know. Thanks.